chance to ask these wonderful panelists some questions. So who'd like to be first? Okay, go ahead. Stand and state your name and major, please.
So I'm Kyle Ray. My major is accounting, and my question is, what's a very common mistake you see legal hires making on either the resume or the interview process, or even on the first day of the job?
Okay, thank you, Kyle. So the question is, what's a common mistake you see when people are submitting their resume, interviewing, or on the first day of the job? So, okay.
I can answer this right now because we're in the process of hiring a community health director. A lot of typos on resumes, typos, different fonts. When those resumes are a little harder to follow, or even the cover letters don't make sense. I mean, we really look into those things because it's we're at a very serious point that we're looking for someone that's going to stay for a long time, especially being a nonprofit. There's a lot of turnover, so we really don't want to keep doing the hiring process over and over again. But a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot sometimes when they tell me they pay attention to detail on their cover letter, and the resume is a complete mess. I go, well, something's not adding up. So that's one piece of advice I would give.
Mike?
I can share an example of an internship that I think did not go well. Okay, I had somebody come in, and I'm from, Ross Business School, U of M, and they show up, and so I asked them to copy some papers. And so I'm sorry, I'm from Ross Business School, I don't copy papers. Well, you also don't get a job offer, okay? Because what you need to do is come in and you need to have a good attitude. Well, you'll do everything. I copy papers, right? You need to have an attitude that you're going to be part of the team and do whatever you can to help the team, right? And if you got an ego, you got to put that ego in the pocket, and just come in and work as a team.
And if I could add to that, we had an intern who was being questioned about a certain thing that he did to get a better understanding, and his response was, what is this, an inquisition? And so that doesn't work well. Typically when you're being asked about something, it's because they're just trying to understand. So keep an open mind. Make sure that if it's copying paper, you copy paper. Trust me, I do it all the time. I don't ask anyone to do anything that I haven't done in the past or I'm doing now. And I think everyone here would probably say the same thing. So there's certain parts of jobs that you're just not going to like. And I think everyone here can say that. You're not going to love every part of every day of your job. That's life. You have something?
State Department is federal government, so we're public sector. We're a little different from my colleagues here on the panel. But what I'd say is, don't be afraid of what you don't know and admitting what you don't know. I think, we all have a tendency to really try to put our best foot forward, but there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know how to do something, or can you show me how to do something, or I didn't do that in my, past job or training. That's what your colleagues are there for. That's what your supervisors are there for. So, I would just encourage you to try to learn as much as you can and not admit when there are deficits, when there are things you don't know.
Admit your mistakes and admit it early, because I promise you, as I tell my team, I'd rather hear it from you. It's going to be a better story than if I hear it from somebody else. So make sure that you state what happened, and maybe if you know what the resolution is, throw that in.
Khalees, were you going to say something?
Yes, so we wanted to talk about the interview process. One thing that you should do is always be prepared for the interview. There will always be a question that's going to stump you because we're nervous, right? Like, I hope you like me, I hope you like me. But you want to make sure that you're prepared for it. So if there's a question that you stumble on, that's okay. Just say, that's a really good question. How about I write it down and can we come back to it a little later? And that way you can keep it going and you're not focused just on trying to answer that one question, and then your nerves go way up. Another thing also, when you're asked the question, why should I give you this job? Make sure that you have a solid answer even if it's your first time right out of school and you're going for this job, you have transferable skills that you've learned while you're here. Hone in on those transferable skills so that way they can say, oh, well, I never even thought of it that way, on those kind of things.
Anything else?
One more thing I can say, even if I had an interview, it was actually Sherwin Williams, and there was a question that was asked, and honest to goodness, I blanked out. It happens, right? I answered the question on my thank you note. So that's how I rebounded from it. I couldn't rebound during the one-on-one interview. I lost that chance. But I used the thank you note to answer that question. And I've been at Sherwin for close to 10 years, so obviously that worked.
So for those of you who are in HR, do you always follow up with a personal thank you note?
I don't care if it's email, I don't care if it's a personal note, but get business cards and do your thank you cards or emails. It's really, really important to do that. I think, is it going to just nail that job for you? No. But you're trying to put your best foot forward. Best foot forward is following up and doing that thank you.
And another strategic way to do that thank you is also, if I'm interviewing 30 people, I may not remember your, you may have interviewed well, but I may not remember that particular interview. That thank you is just going to reinforce, oh yes, I remember her, put her back to the top. It's just the way it works. So it can be done as a strategy also.
We hear from a number of employers that the power of a handwritten thank you note that is sent in the mail, not many are received, but they're remembered. And so, I don't know, have you all received any
Oh, yeah.
in the mail recently? And right, not just email, but right.
So my wife forces our children, when they were little,
Oh, yeah.
always write a thank you note.
Yes.
So she's still, even when they're in college and out, did you write a thank you note to that person? You did an internship with KPMG. Did you write a thank you note? You did one with Third Federal. They don't need a thank you note. Yes, they do.
Yes.
Because at some point in your career, you may need that contact. And solidifying that personal relationship, it's important. And you may never pay off, but it establishes that habit.
Shows good character.
Yep.
And all these little tips that you pick up today are things that go back to developing your brand, how people view you, being as professional as possible. We like to refer to this as part of your professional presence, so you have us to help you with that too. So, Aaliyah, you had your hand up next. So state your name and
Thank you for coming. My name is Alia. I'm an undergraduate student here majoring in marketing. I'm currently a junior standing student. Actually, I had a question about your marketing internships. As in addition to my bachelor's degree in marketing, I added another degree, which is a professional certificate in sales. I had a look on Sherwin Williams' sales career opportunities, but they had, like in their opportunities, they had to take someone who has a driver's license, which is something that I don't have. So I wanted to ask you if there was any opportunity about that as well. In addition to that, I design logos, I design slogans, I design flyers, and I'm interested in marketing from the corporate side more than the private side.
Right, so for the corporate side, you don't need a driver's license. You probably need a state ID is what I'm guessing, which is not a driver's license per se. So there's different types of marketing programs for Sherwin. Actually, before I came here, we had a little pamphlet that talks about different opportunities. And I'm like, why are there so many in marketing? And they're like, because that's how many we have. So there's lots of different options. And you'll see more and more as you get closer to the summer as to other marketing opportunities.
Oh yeah, maybe because they told me that like at first I was searching for a sales
Yes.
career, and that's why maybe that was like
That's the reason. There are other marketing roles, I promise you.
all right. Thank you.
yes, your name and major?
Hi, I'm Kelsey Segraves. I'm a history major with a minor in classical studies. This is really a question for all of you. what inspired you to go into your fields, and what is the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome?
Okay, so, thank you. So what has inspired you to go into your fields, and what has been the biggest obstacle?
So I went to Ohio State, and I knew I wanted to go into business, but I had no idea in what. So probably just like Cleveland State, you have to take certain classes, right? And I took accounting, and I went, oh, no. I took finance, and I went, really, no. And there are other ones. And then I took an HR class, and I went, I can see myself doing that. But then once I got into HR, I was a generalist, and I figured out there's a lot of things I didn't necessarily like. In regards to the fact that I didn't find satisfaction in it. Like, I could do it, but I didn't see how I was positively affecting people. And then when I went into recruiting, that's where I felt like I was really happy. I am happy when I can connect Sherwin to a great candidate and I'm positively affecting that person's life. That makes me happy. And then a challenge for me, I think, is me stopping me. Like, I should be taking more opportunities. And at your young age, don't stop yourself, as I said. Make sure that you explore, see what you really enjoy, and don't let you stop you. And even if you get a no, one no is not the no forever. So just keep going. If you love it, do it. That would be
So I got into community, really community programming, because I used to do home visiting, I used to do after-school leadership programs, and now I'm doing a little more on the community level. I was really inspired by just kind of the upbringing. I came from Puerto Rico when I was 12, here to Cleveland, and I saw a lot of the challenges that the city faced. I graduated from John Marshall, and I saw a lot of the challenges within the schools. I saw there was a limited amount of people that reflect the community that they're actually serving in the city of Cleveland. Obviously, a lot of the students and families are black and brown, but when you go to our schools, the teachers don't reflect that. Some of the people we're reaching out to don't reflect that. So sometimes there's a disconnect there. I kind of took it as a form of protest that I didn't see many Puerto Rican men in this field. That's why I got into the community work, because I wanted to show others around me that you can aspire to more than just some of the things you see in your neighborhoods. So that's really why I got into the work that I'm doing, because I see the challenges and I understand it, and then I was able to then take my education and kind of come back, and I'm trying to kind of bridge that gap. So that's really why I do the work that I do. The big challenge, especially in community work, is making sure that you have a work-life balance. A lot of people take the things that they do very, very personal. They take it home sometimes with them. They're overthinking. Especially when I work with other people, I had to remember that it's on other people to make their decisions. I can't take it personal if they take my advice or they don't. I don't know the entire challenge. But finding that balance as I got older has really helped me be even more productive and a better version of myself at work. I think if you carry too much of one or the other, it can burn you out one way. So making sure that you have some type of balance can maybe offset some of those challenges.
Yesterday, we heard from several of the panelists talking about the importance of self-care, which picks up on what you said, Carlos, with the work-life balance, because sometimes we're so busy getting started in our careers and trying to do everything that we don't think about taking care of ourselves physically, spiritually, mentally. So maybe Mike?
I can make a couple comments. I went into accounting as a backup job from the electrician thing, but I went into it because I like math, right? And that's what I really liked about it, even though this day and age I don't do any math at all, right? It's all talking and communicating and on the phone and everything else. And so, and I would say that when you look at challenges, there's challenges are throughout your entire career. It's every single day there's a new challenge and something new. But when I look at you and I think about where you're at in your career, the biggest challenge I had was I was not brought up in a business family. You know, I had a father who was a mailman, you know, these brothers that were electricians, and a mom who was an administrative person, you know, so it was like almost like there was a big unknown as to what it was all about. Sitting here as a junior in college here, somebody said to me, well, are you going to interview with the Big 8 accounting firms? I had no idea what the Big 8 was. I had no idea what that was. You know, I didn't grow up that way, and so I think what would have benefited me back then would have been to have like a mentor back then, somebody that would have been a good business mentor that would kind of like fill in those gaps that I was missing. And so I think that's probably important for everyone is to have, it doesn't have to be in accounting, it could be in talent, it could be anything, but it's good to have somebody that is in the business world that cares about you and you're very connected in, that can fill in those gaps for you.
It's good advice. Luke?
You know, like other people here on the panel, I mean, I grew up in Detroit. I went to Detroit Public Schools. I'm a product of the Detroit Public School System. Detroit, it's a very diverse city like Cleveland, lots of different ethnic groups, languages, you know, restaurants. But I think early on I had a very strong commitment to public service, to serving the country, serving other Americans, which is what the State Department offers among many other federal agencies. But in terms of challenges, you know, I think as a product of my own environment too, you know, I don't think I ever had the confidence to believe that I could actually do this, right? I thought, you know, the Foreign Service is for people who go to Ivy League schools and, you know, come from sort of Ivy League backgrounds and from these dynasties of Foreign Service officers. And so I think the biggest challenge was myself, you know, and was believing that this was something I could do. And another challenge, just really quickly, is that often what we do in the Foreign Service overseas is we work a lot with the nonprofit sector. You know, we work with Catholic Relief Services overseas, Save the Children in development work, and we work with the private sector, with consultants and with vendors, with private companies that provide us with supplies. So I think you know, I didn't really see this as a very kind of career, which was not realistic because you do get to interact with a lot of not only different kinds of people, but people who represent different sectors in society.
Thank you. Anybody else have? Next question? Okay, let's take one in the way back with the hat. Your name and major, please?
My name is Matt. I'm a studio art major with a minor in art history. That being said, my question to you would be, given that I'm pursuing a major in the arts, then should I pursue employment with the company outside of my major? How likely, what would you look for in hiring a person from a different major than what you're traditionally looking for? Would you prefer to see somebody more experienced in the fine arts or somebody with a more versatile background?
So picking up on that, thank you. The question about someone with the fine arts majors applying for positions that might be a little bit different, how would you view a student with that type of a background? Maybe comment on the skills that the student would have, transferable skills?
I think it's your interest, right? If you've done certain things that, again, transferable skills, that's something that we would look into. For IT, for those non-hard technical roles, we don't care what degree it is. So it doesn't matter. It really comes down to what's your passion. How can you relate what you've done to that role? And I think that's what's important.
That's really a good point to make, Siggy, because if you're an accountant or an engineer, you're going to be applying, most likely the first job, to be an accountant or an engineer. But we hear from so many employers, it's the skill set, your passion, the transferable skills. And there's value in everything you've done. We can help you think about what that value is. Every part-time job, every volunteer experience, value that you might not have even thought about from your coursework, the skills you've developed with campus activities, awards. And so all of these things can help tell your story to be a strong candidate. Carlos?
Just to add on, I was a psych major. I'm not a psychologist. You're actually going to find that happens to a lot of people. But what I took from it, when everything I've ever applied for has never asked for a psych major, right? So then I had to say, well, why is it that I would still fit into this role? And I take what I liked about it or what I was good at, and then that's how you transfer it on. So if you're a creative individual, that's a skill set people are looking for. Maybe you see things differently than others. For me, you know, I took a lot of the psychology. My experience with psychology, I took it where my observations of people, and I have a better understanding how people work. And so I was able to kind of craft that, and that comes with the elevator pitch. So take what you're doing good in that major, or what skills you're actually like really building. That's what you need to show on paper. Sometimes the degree might not matter depending on where you're applying, but understanding that a lot of people don't really, you know, there's a lot of people that have one major and they're in another field. Probably more than half the people we run into are like that, so it's not unheard of.
Anybody else want to add anything to that? Luke?
In the Foreign Service, we look for people who can represent America, right, in all its diversity. So we have Foreign Service officers who have, you know, culinary degrees and have sold, you know, professional baseball tickets. We come from a wide variety of backgrounds intentionally, because we want you to be able to represent your country when you're overseas in all its diversity. So it's good to know a little bit about a lot of things as a Foreign Service officer. So I would say to you, you know, you're exactly the kind of person we're looking for, like everybody else in this room. So don't think, you know, it's what you've done or where you've traveled or what languages you speak, but it's who you are as a person. You know, do you exercise good judgment? Are you creative? You look for opportunities. It's the inherent qualities you have as a person when you're representing this country overseas.
One thing that I would like to add also is just looking at your career. So don't look at it as where I am today. Look at it as where do I want to be 10, 15 years from now. So you may have a fine arts major, and you want to do X, Y, and Z with that major, but the long-term goal is maybe you want to open up your own museum. Maybe you want to open up your own community center where you can teach children about arts in different communities. And so if that's the case, then maybe you want to sell into with Carlos and then see how his nonprofit works so that you can get those skills to see how you would eventually open up your own. So not just looking at where you are today, but where you want to be 20 years down the line.
Job shadowing, I think, is really important. So just something to think about. Internships are important. And by the way, just because you don't like the internship doesn't mean it's a fail. It's actually just as important. It's important to know what you don't like as well as what you do like. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people here that you can connect with on, hey, internships, maybe it's a one-day job shadowing thing. So there's a lot of opportunities.
And we like to encourage students to do informational interviews. Have any of you done any informational interviews yet? Do you know what they are? It's a great opportunity to pick up on what you said, Siggy. You're basically reaching out to professionals. We can help you figure out who those people might be. And you ask to talk to them for, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, I always say keep it 10 to 15 minutes because if people are busy, they're not going to think it's that much time and they'll probably talk to you longer. And you're asking them for some career information and advice. And so you're not asking them for a job, then they feel badly if they didn't have one, or they'll feel on the spot. But everybody likes to talk about what they do. So then if you have a good conversation, you ask them, oh, can you suggest someone else I might talk to? Maybe ask about further conversations, doing some shadowing, and send that handwritten thank you note. Once again, any opportunity to set yourself apart professionally, but thank you for mentioning that. So I saw another hand up, I think.
I'm sorry, yeah, I was just going to add, right now you're a student, right? You're learning and you'll graduate, but the learning honestly doesn't stop. It's just called training, right? It's always ongoing. You're probably going to get certifications later on, whatever field you get into. So don't let that, stop you. It's ongoing all the time, and you kind of have to accept that you're always going to be learning something. So once you get into your foot in the door, which is usually the hardest part, it's on you then to kind of see where maybe you have a weakness and build that up, because then in the future that can't be used against you.
Thank you. In the back? And then, okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Christian. I'm a mechanical engineering student, math minor. I'm also a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. I'm working on black belt right now. The question I wanted to pose to you all today as a collective group is you have a lot of guys coming out of college with low GPA, but very little experience. You have a lot of guys coming out with 3.0s or slightly below that, but enormous amounts of experience. For you as people who interact with students who start looking at hiring these fresh students coming into the world, what sort of balance do you look for in the people you're hiring that are coming in?
Okay. So the question is, describing some students with the 4.0s and the 3.0s, and what do you look at in terms of a balance, in terms of like GPA, experience?
I think for us, personal skills, those soft skills are really, really important. So if you have a 4.0 but you can't relate to anyone, I'm sorry, we don't want you because it's going to be so difficult. So grade point average only goes so far. It's the soft skills. It's what you've done. It's how you communicate with others. I think that's really, really important. It's just us. So typically 2.8 is what we look for. Kurt?
So GPA will get you to a pile to be considered, 4.0. I once pulled someone's resume because it was 3.92, and I said, I got to meet somebody who's got a 3.92. I want to find out what they got to be in. She got to be in gym class. Brilliant woman, she's now climbing. We hired her. Then on the other side, you can get somebody with that 2.8 or a 3.0 who's proven stuff. I'll often ask for writing samples and work samples when we're looking for people, and I'll be able to tell this person actually can sit down and they can communicate from what they provide, or in a marketing field, or in a fine arts field. I want to see what you've actually done. And in an engineering field, if you've worked on, as part of a group, or you've done a case study, or maybe you've done an internship, and you've done X, Y, and Z, all that matters is you get that first job. After that, I can tell you, nobody's ever asked me what my GPA is. I go into a meeting, nobody ever asked me what school I went to. It doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. So first job's all that matters. There's a balance between the two. She's right, if you're better in that first interview, you're going to be better off than somebody with 4.0.
I'd like to see leadership. I want to see people that are part of, like, if your average isn't that 4 point, but you're part of, like, the accounting association, and you're an officer there, or a Beta Alpha Psi, and you're an officer in some type of organization where we see leadership, that is relevant and important, So I think, that, I put that as really high up. That might be higher up than the average itself.
were you going to say something?
Yeah, for us, the biggest factor in selection is your motivation and your commitment to public service. The average age of an incoming foreign service officer now is in the mid-30s. So, it's people like you who come to, when they're finishing college, undergrad or grad school, and they come to a session like this, they hear about the Foreign Service, they know it exists, but they decide to actually do it later on. After they've worked for, my colleagues here, then they decide maybe when they're in their mid-30s, it's time for a change, I want to commit myself to public service. So at that point, your transcripts, your academic background really matters so much less than what your commitment is, and things like leadership, the kind of qualities that you show.
Okay. You had a hand up.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Hannah Lipka. I'm a senior here at CSU, the major in math and a minor in statistics. And my question kind of going off what Pia said, but what makes someone stand out to you, whether it's on a resume or in a person meeting, that you I want to bring that person for an interview, I want to open that door for them?
Okay, so what makes someone stand out on a resume so that you want to interview them?
The leadership skills that he's talking about, like having an internship, volunteering, being in a group, those kinds of things really resonate. Mathematics and statistics, God bless you, that's a wonderful thing. That one right there, I would be like, wow. But really, doing something other than school, I think is very important. That's what I would say.
I'd say the other thing that's important is looking at activities where you care about others, right? Whether it's charity, type of getting involved in a charity organization where maybe you feed the poor or do something, but that type of stuff where you show that you're doing something besides yourself is really powerful.
I just wanted to add, sometimes the resumes, they can blend, right? A lot of people put the same thing, they know all the buzzwords. So that's where part of it is the cover letter as well. I think if you can translate what's on the resume onto the cover letter, and that piques my interest. You tell me a little bit about yourself through that writing. I've been interested based off a lot of cover letters when I say, I like that. I can connect with this person. It's something I might have not seen on the resume, but I can see it here. That helps. But also then going back to the resume, sometimes it's your references as well. That's where you want to do your research and figure out who is connected to this potential organization you're applying to, and have some different references. Because sometimes I'll recognize a name. I go, oh, I like that person, and they're a reference. I might be able to go ahead and call because if the resumes look all the same, right? That's maybe the differentiator. I go, tell me your thoughts, and so look into that.
One thing that I would like to also add is when you call to follow up on your application, please have something written that you want to say, because in my line of work, it's super busy, so when I pick up the phone, it's speak quickly. And I'm just being verbally honest with you. So when you call and say, hi, my name is Khalees Makerson, I applied for the administrative assistant position that you had posted for your Midtown location. I was calling to check on the status of my application. I was like, okay, no problem. Let me go into the system. While I'm going into the system, then you can say something like, oh, so I noticed that it was posted on this day. Have you already started doing your interviews? Because I would like to add blah, blah, blah. So while I'm looking you up, I hear your blah, blah, blah. I'm going to put it in the notes, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I will let the hiring supervisor know. Bingo, done, right? If you know someone who works at a particular location that you're trying to get in, throw their name out there. I was having a conversation with such and such who works there, and they told me this would be a really good opportunity for me. Okay, dot, 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 put that in the notes. Just make sure you follow up with them to let them know, I applied for this job, they might be calling you. Don't want to blindside anybody, so I just want to throw that out there too. When you follow up, just make sure that you have something written written down, and you're not just calling, because then it seems like, oh my gosh, you can do another one, just call.
I think what's interesting is, what you bring up is interesting because you need to know your audience that you're dealing with, right? Because when you look at business chemistry, we have all different type of business chemistry. We have drivers, we have integrators. You're probably a driver. You sound like a driver, you know. But we have integrators. We have creative people like pioneers. We have guardians that are more protective and need all the details. That's important to know your audience because if you called me, I want to know about your cat and your dog, okay? And I want to spend the time to talk about that. Now, you call you're a different personality type. You got to get to the point and get it done, right?
Hard part is, they may be calling, they don't know who they're calling. Sometimes they may not know. And if someone called me and said, hey, you want to know about my cat and my dog? I'd be like, no, really, I don't. You want to know about my two dogs? I'll let you know about my dog. So yeah, so it's a little bit hard to sometimes know your audience. We understand that, but make sure that you know what you want to say. I think that's the most important thing. One other thing that I thought of, social media. That's big, okay? Don't have pictures of you all doing some really silly things, because you just don't know who's going to view it. So I'm just forewarning you. And I'm not saying I view it, but I may hear about it.
I do. I look. Because I'm not the hired manager on that, so let me be honest. But I think about, wow, this person would represent Old Brooklyn, and look what they do. And if they're honestly silly enough to have public, that's going to say a lot about yourself. I learned that very early on because so I used to play baseball here at CSU, and we had the NCAA meetings, and they helped us kind of clean that up. But thankfully we did that because employers are doing that. They are looking into those things because for them, what you do off-site can still reflect poorly on them.
Yeah,
And just remember, you may not have it on your social media, but someone else may have it on social media. So just make sure that you understand that things go viral, and it may not be the best life of who you are.
that's especially important for us. You have to have a security clearance to work for us, and all of us have top secret clearances, and if you don't want, something you don't want your mother to read or see, or somebody in your family, you probably should not be putting it online because we do, that does come up during background investigations, and you just want to be judicious about how you present yourself.
Good advice.
I just sat here listening to 5 very experienced people, and they all have a different story about what's important to them, what they pay attention to. I would have never even thought of cover letters because I didn't think people even did cover letters anymore or called references anymore. But it tells you that details matter. If you're going to do it right. Pay attention to every minor little detail because something's going to get somebody down the road and go, nope, they're dead. So social media, all this stuff, the cover letter, the references, the dogs and cats, you name it. It's the first time you're meeting this person or you're seeing them on your resume, have it right. Got one shot.
No pressure, no stress.
No pressure. We have time for at least one more question, so
I do have
over
one.
there.
My name's Kenneth Duggar. I'm a marketing major. My kind of question kind of revolves around career changing. When y'all look for people to lead teams, is it more important to have an intricate knowledge of the entry-level details or of the team management with a strategic or conceptual understanding of what your team's going to do? Like, is there a balance, and kind of where is that from your perspective as a corporate level, if that makes sense?
Depends on the role that you're going into.
Let's do my specific example. 11 years military, medical, I want to be marketing, but I've done recruiter portion. So I kind of have a conceptual understanding, but haven't done a corporate role, if that makes more sense to you, sir.
Geez, if you're ready to flip and go on to the corporate world, that's a great background. Somebody's going to go, hey, as long as he's willing to not earn $75,000 when he walks out of college, it's a great mix. Somebody in the military. speaking for myself, you see a military background, you say, okay, they're very, you know, ABC, and they're going to fulfill what you ask of them, one way or another. And if they've been able to develop marketing and sales skills, if you're a recruiter, you're a salesperson, everybody's got to learn sales. The accountant knows how to sell. Everybody knows how to sell. And if you don't know how to sell in your career, you're not going to be, you got to learn it. So that's a career change. That shouldn't be that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think initially, you're probably going to be a single contributor, right? You're going to learn the business. And then you'll move up into a more strategical type of role, whether you're a SME in a certain area or you're in management. But I think entry level, you have to learn the business. You have to understand it. And then you may move up faster than maybe somebody else.
And the reason why we want you to learn the business is because if you have subordinates under you, and you don't know that part of the work, they're not going to respect you.
Street cred, very important.
Well, at this time, thank you so much to our panelists. That was such a lively discussion. It was very entertaining, too. And I'd like to thank our students and alumni in the audience. So you students and alumni in this section, you'll just stay here when we wrap up. We will escort our panelists to the interview rooms that they're going to be in. And you will have your chance for your brief one-on-ones with the employer with whom you signed up. After 3 to 4 minutes, we'll be, knocking on the door so that the next student can come in and you can wrap up. So students, you should be prepared to share a little bit of your elevator pitch, and then be prepared, as they all said, follow up afterwards. You have 6 people here, 4 of whom are CSU alums. All 6 are here because they care about our students. They care about you, and to help you develop your professional skills at the highest possible level. So think about this as a way to build more of your professional network in a really safe space, and take advantage of that. So at this point in time, we'll take the panelists to your rooms, and let's give them a round of applause.